Welcome back. Yeah, he did episode 2 here. New format.
Yep.
And I'm excited, man. We're going to go over. So let's explain the new format to all the lovely listeners out there. We are going to read a chapter of the Bible. Connor and I read this beforehand. Right now we're going to work through the letter of Paul to the Philippians. So we're going to work through Philippians 1 today, 2 the next time we're on here, and then so on and so forth. And then we'll find a new book. But it's just going to be Connor and I, and then we're going to have a guest on after the fact. You guys will hear about that, and I'm sure you see from the title and the video who that is. But, yeah, Connor, I'm excited. Philippians 1.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite Pauline letters, I would say. If we had to
Philippians, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had to put this in like the tier list, I'd probably put it A tier or S tier. It's up there.
Corinthians has to be S, I feel like.
I don't know. Like it feels wrong to like rate scripture because it's all S tier. But like
we can be honest.
Like we'll give it like I would give Corinthians like SA, I would say. Like, you know what I mean? I would give Romans. I think Romans is SS.
Fair.
So I would put Philippians. It's quick, gets to the point. One of the most misquoted verses by athletes. Philippians 4:13. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But yeah, Philippians 1. We're going to be reading out of the ESV, or as I like to call it, Extra Saved Version, or the Most Based Bible Translation. Two of my favorite ways to put it. I used to read New King James the most, I would say. But I switched to ESV because of the Dead Sea Scrolls, because I'm a nerd like that. You know, the New King James didn't quite have the Dead Sea Scrolls entwined. So a little bit of a nerd fact for all you Bible scholars out there. So, Connor, what was your initial takeaway here? Anything in particular stick out to you in Philippians 1?
So I guess like the biggest thing was, I guess it's been on my mind for a while. I heard it somewhere probably 4 or 5 months ago. And it kind of ties back to verse 14. And because of my imprisonment, most of the believers here have gained confidence and boldly speak God's message without fear. I think there's another verse in here that ties it in a little bit better, but that's okay. Basically about Paul's imprisonment. And the thing that I saw was, like, if Christianity became illegal, would there be enough evidence?
You stole that. I posted that.
No, bro.
I swear, bro. I posted that. You stole it from me.
No, I've had it in my notes for about 4 or 5 months. If Christianity became illegal, would there be enough evidence that you would have committed the crime? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I posted that the other day. I'm telling you, you stole it.
I'm telling you, you can look at my notes. I've been there forever.
Yeah, that jokes aside, that's really a great quote, and it really is humbling. I mean, you have to look at your fruit when you say that, and I think Paul kind of sums that up. This is a little bit of a different note, but then verse 21, we'll go to it here for you guys to see it as well. We're gonna try to get fancy, have it on the screen. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. I mean, he's showing just how much weight his testimony has there in verse 14, right? And he's showing like, hey, like I turned all these prison guards to Christ, and they are proclaiming the gospel because of my testimony, right? And he's like, you know, let's be honest, I'd much rather just die and go and be with Jesus. But to live is Christ, right? Like he's going to go and he's going to still pursue that purpose that God still has for him. I think that's one of my favorite verses that Paul has ever written. And it's just so quick and straight to the point. To live is Christ. And he says, I like how he starts off with for me, or for to me, right? Because it's showing that for him specifically, like, he is so sure of his salvation that he would just love to go die and be with Jesus right now. I mean, that sounds kind of crazy to put it, to say that he wants to die. But he's saying, like it would be so much better if I died right now and I'm with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I think that's just yeah. Well, I mean, look at 22. I think it ties it right in there. If I am to live in the flesh, that means fruitful labor to me, yet which I shall choose I cannot tell. So he's kind of saying God's will above mine, right?
Yeah.
Or it kind of reminds you of Jesus when he's praying, Lord, take this cup from me, but not my will, but your own. You know, and he's sweating drops of blood. That's kind of the vibe I get there from what Paul's saying here.
Yeah, I guess even just looking through this, you go to verse 29, and he talks about, for you have been given not only the privilege of trusting Christ, but also given the privilege of suffering for him. That's something that we're so privileged as, like, in America, like, we're free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at places like Afghanistan,
China,
Iraq, China, places that there's like these home churches that they are constantly in fear that if someone comes and knocks at their door, party's over. It's done. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, like, I mean, there's just like pick up your cross and daily. That's something that's, yeah. I mean, that reigns true for us even in the U.S. I mean, there's so many things that we could surrender, like our sports or school, different things like that, just to, yeah.
Well, I think
more devoted.
Your point about like the people in different countries that are being persecuted, that really goes back to your quote that you were talking about, where do these people have enough fruit and enough goodness that they're willing to die for their faith, right? Because that's what it comes down to. They knock on your door and they see you with a bunch of Christians. Are you going to stand up and say, yes, I believe in the one true God and Jesus Christ, his son? Or are you going to, I mean, it'd be real easy there to say, no. Like, I don't know how.
You got the wrong guy, yeah.
It's not me. Was it Thomas? No, not Thomas, Peter.
Yeah.
There, where
the little girl asked him, yeah. Don't you know that guy don't you know that guy that's being killed?
No, who's that?
No, no idea. I'm Simon. I have no idea. Peter, never heard of him.
Yeah. I mean, it really just shows, because it's kind of one of those fight or flight things, right? I mean, you can talk about, like, if some dude breaks into my house, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tackle him. I'm going to take him out, right? But then when that happens, like, you're going to either, whoa, like, what's going on, or you're going to snap into it, right? And I think that's what that comes down to.
That almost even goes back to what Pastor Tim was talking about this last weekend. I don't know if you were did you go to JFM this weekend?
No, man. Isaac and I started walking to my car, and that snow just started coming down like crazy. I'm like, I am not driving in this. I'm not risking it.
But basically he was talking about, like, how your reactions show what your heart posture is. So he was using, like, say somebody cuts you off while you're driving. You flip them off. That shows your heart right there. That shows your heart. Or do you, I mean, what's your reaction? Your initial reaction is what your heart is. So if you're in that situation and someone comes knocking, hey, are you a Christian? Like, we hate those people around here. Like, can't you see? Are you going to deny? Or, I mean, there's your heart right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back. I want to look at verse 11 here. I'll skip back for you guys. Try and get you guys the. Struggling here. Still getting it down. Verse 11. You're filled with the fruit of righteousness. This kind of plays into what you were just saying. I mean, your fruit. Where does it say? You will know them by their fruits. But filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God, right? So again, you gotta have the context. So 9 through 10 says, "And it is my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and all discernment, so that you may approve what is excellent, and so be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God." So it all starts with love. is it in Corinthians where it says the greatest is love, right? I believe it's Corinthians, but it's like peace may abound and hope and love, but the greatest is love. So it all starts with love. I mean, Jesus' first 2 commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So without love,
Good luck.
can you be a Christian? I mean, if you love the Lord, but you don't love your neighbor, I mean, that's very un-Christ-like, right? I mean, that is almost the opposite. Actually, no, that is the opposite of what Jesus did and what Jesus preached. So you really need to check yourself and your fruit. Are you really loving your neighbor, right? And that love needs to abound more and more. That's what Paul is saying here. Like, it's not just going to snap. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, I hate my neighbor, then I love him, right? It's little things. In chapel right now, we're talking about the Sermon on the Mount. Bless those who persecute you. Pray for your enemies, right? So it's all those little things that lead to a life of love. And that's where it abounds more and more. And that's the fruit, right? Like that just goes. I really like that passage that Paul's saying there. And I think the love part really gets taken out. Like you can take just verse 11. I mean, that's even just what I wrote down. It's filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. But I mean, you got to take that in context there, and that love is just so important.
I think that's something that often can get, kind of misconstrued with Christians as well, though. The whole love aspect, I think a lot of people can take that as, I don't know how to really say this. Like nothing matters. You know what I mean? Like sin isn't bad. Like, oh, you should love your neighbor as yourself. But that doesn't mean you should love the sin and love the
absolutely
I mean, there's
the sinner, not the sin.
Right, exactly.
Which that's a very fine line, right? Like, is it? I think it's in the Sermon on the Mount too, where Jesus says, like, you tell your neighbor about the speck in his eye when you have a plank in yours. Right? Like, you do need to, and I love the way Dr. Cornell puts this. He says, I've got a telephone pole coming out of my eye. I'm really good at seeing the sins that I don't struggle with, right? So I think that's got a lot of weight to it, right? Yeah. I mean, like, oh, I don't struggle with homosexuality. Like, that's so pagan. That's so dirty. And it is a sin. Right? And Jesus came down to save us from all of our sins. And just because I don't struggle with that sin, that doesn't make me holier than thou, correct? I mean,
yeah.
We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to love those. But loving someone, right? It's building a relationship with them, right? So, like, if I saw you out and cussing all the time, right? I think it's more loving as a brother in Christ to say, hey, you've got to knock this off, right? Like, that's part of what love is. It's not it's showing so much love that I'm telling you that, and I'm like, you cannot keep going down this path and keep sinning. That is more loving than just allowing you to do that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But I also wonder, I'm a Greek scholar now.
Takes one Greek class.
Hey, I'm in number 2. I'm in Greek number 2. But I'm not actually a Greek scholar. I don't want that out there. I know very minimal Greek. But one thing I do know, there's 4 words for love in the Greek language, right? So and this has ended up in a whole lot of things. There's agape, which everybody knows agape. Phileo, which is more of a brotherly love. There's eros, and I can't remember the 4th one, but I know there is a 4th one. And C.S. Lewis has a book on it. It's called The 4 Loves, and I think they're doing a talk on it here. So I think 4 people from English.
Is it storage?
Maybe. I'm not sure. We haven't learned that one. It's kind of like a weird.
Storage is like familial love.
But I wonder what this word for love is here. I don't have the Greek in front of me, but what the phileo love is like a brotherly love. So
Yeah,
I mean, it in what gospel is it? In one of the gospels where Simon Peter, Jesus asks him, "Do you love me?" And then "Yes, Lord, do you love me?" I think it was phileo, and then agape, which I believe agape is the
highest,
the heavenly love, right?
Yeah.
Like love like a God. So he says, "Do you phileo? Do you phileo?" And then "Do you agape?" So, or I might have had that backwards. It's either do you phileo, do you phileo, do you agape, or do you agape, do you agape, do you phileo. So the different uses for the word love are kind of crazy in our English context. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that stuck out to you in Philippians 1? I mean, it's a pretty dense but pretty straightforward chapter, I would argue.
Yeah.
So, again, I want to comment just a little bit more on 21, then we'll wrap up. For me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. If I'm to live in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me. Yet which I shall choose, I cannot tell. I'm hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ, for that is far better. But to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. Right? So that's again, right? Like your will versus God's will.
Yeah.
We're getting those verses up there, but like God's will for Paul is, I need you to go and spread the gospel. And we showed that with the prison guards, right? But Paul's like, but God, I want to be with you, which that's a really good desire, right? And he knows his salvation. He's so sure in it. That's how every single Christian should be. You need to be sure in your salvation. But he's saying to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. And that's just showing purpose, right? I think a lot of us need to take some notes from Paul. Not just in this passage, but in about every passage that Paul has. So if you are remaining in the flesh, you still have purpose. Rob Link puts it, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you're still out here kicking, the Great Commission is still your day-to-day. So I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from this.
Yeah, I would say I was just kind of scrolling through. I told Murph I had written some notes in my Bible, but I came right after eating at the DC, and I didn't have time to go grab my Bible.
DC was good today.
It was pretty Taco Tuesday.
I had tacos for lunch, so I went chicken tenders. Them chicken tenders were good. Man, is this Spirituality and Food Podcast? Episode 1, we talked about hot dogs. Number 2, we're already talking about chicken tenders.
So, verse 27. I'm just going off of things that I've highlighted in my phone. Talks about, above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourself in a matter worthy of the good news about Christ. Mm-hmm. That's so good. I heard somebody put it that, like, we should be striving to be sinless. We're never going to get there, but it's the chase. Mm-hmm. And really just the way that Paul puts it, I mean, it's like you are really what's the quote? Like, be the depiction of the gospel that somebody else might never hear.
Yeah, somebody might never see a Bible. You might be the only Bible that someone sees. Yeah, that's really awesome. But, I think that's a good thing to really end on there. I mean, there's just so much. Philippians is really dense, too. I mean, it may take us a little while to get through this. If we have to split it up into half a chapter, we will. But we're gonna work through this, and I hope that you guys got as much from this as we did. But yeah, that's really good. And one more thing I wanna note. My version and the version you have on the screen. You read NLT, I believe is what you told me. So ESV uses that word good news as gospel, and in the Greek those are synonyms, right? So I think that is one thing that for a lay person that can be really struggling. What's the word I'm looking for? Words are tough.
It can be a struggle.
Yeah, it can be a struggle for some people, right? Because you hear the gospel. What is the gospel, right?
Yeah.
Jesus came and died. The word gospel is euangelion, and that is literally the word for good news. So the gospel of Jesus Christ is the good news of Jesus Christ, right? So I just want to state that point. I mean, it's a minor point, but I feel like it's a lot of people don't know that. And I like how your Bible says the good news, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I do like in translation differences, because I prefer the word gospel because I know what it means, right?
Right.
But like the
If someone were to pick
gospel,
that up, right.
it can be one of those like church words, you know.
Talking about gospel music, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. Thank you guys for listening to this first part. I mean, yeah, I think we're gonna enjoy this new format. I think it's gonna be a lot more fruitful. So yeah. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be right back. You're listening to Yeah, He Did. And welcome back. So I'm gonna be having one heck of a time this episode. We got Connor Swihart. Obviously, you know him, you love him. And then we have our guest, who we'd love for you to introduce yourself, and people will see why I'm going to have a dickens of a time today.
I am Connor D. I am a sophomore here at Spring Arbor on the baseball team.
All right, Connor, I'm gonna have to ask you one favor. You're going to have to get close to the mic. That is, it's every time someone new gets on the mic, they're always back here. You gotta get up on it. You got to get close and personal with it.
All right,
We good? There you go.
All right,
There we go.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Now that he's media trained, we can get him going. Connor,
perfect.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, happy to be here.
You're gonna have an early night tonight. You gotta leave. What is it? 6?
Yes, 6 a.m. 5:25 arrival at the clubhouse. So
Oh my goodness.
it'll be an early morning, but
Going to Kansas?
going to Kansas.
The game's still on. That is crazy.
Game's still on.
I was talking to Eli and Joey Tesmer at NBL last
Oh
night.
yeah.
And I was like, so you guys still leaving tomorrow or on Wednesday? And they're like, yeah, I don't know
we
if
sure are. Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to play when we get there, but
Well, we freaking played last night here.
I know.
And
That's crazy.
Coach said real field was 22 by the end of the game. We're
That's
like,
insane.
yeah, but
Yeah. Isaac was telling me that they're playing. He's like, I'm going to watch the game. I'm like, that's even crazier than playing.
oh yeah, no, it was brutal. It was brutal.
Did you guys end up winning that one?
We did not. A little fell apart a little bit at the end, but we'll leave that be for now. But
Just a scrimmage.
Don't ask, don't tell.
just a scrimmage, yeah. A little go ahead through unbound. But
Didn't they? It counted for their record, correct? But it didn't.
it
count for
did, yeah.
yours?
It was just scrimmage for us, but it counted for them.
Okay.
So good for them.
We
I
were trying to
guess.
be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
right.
what it was. Yeah,
We were
a little
tanking.
charity win. Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Well, what's going on in Kansas? I mean, why Kansas? I feel like it's not that much warmer there.
So that's a much asked question. Mid-America, Nazarene, that's who we play. Them and Columbia, both opening round teams. So good comp. Kind of get a feel of what we are this year. And then we just got that brand new field. So I think a lot of it's to save money and stuff like that, which is fair.
Softball's going to Florida, right?
They are, and it's tough with our schedule because the crossroads for baseball literally starts the weekend before spring break.
Yeah.
Whereas softball, they don't start until like a few weeks after spring break, like the league schedule. So we either have to move spring break up somehow, which it's not easy to do with the school.
Yeah.
Move it up to go on a spring break trip, or So we're hoping to go somewhere else next year, warmer, but we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
just
see.
where the cards fell this year.
Yeah, but I think we have an advantage. Supposedly, a lot of their teams are some like Dominican guys that probably aren't used to 45. So
They're all going to be out there in
We're-
winter coats.
we've been practicing outside for a week or so now. So
Yeah, it seems like that's a consensus. Like the Michigan Northern teams, they can handle the cold, especially in football, which
Big Ten rules the world, baby.
Yeah,
Sure
I mean,
do.
this is gonna be out after the Super Bowl. We're filming this before the Super Bowl, but oh my goodness, what a great game! What a great game that it's gonna be.
Remains to be seen if I'll watch it, but
I haven't watched the Super Bowl in so long.
We watched it last year, remember?
Yeah, but I was in and out. I wasn't really even paying attention. I'm a huge football fan until Green Bay loses, and then all I care about is who we're getting in the draft and when we're getting everybody that's on the trade market. And we're getting all of them this year.
Last year,
Myles Garrett.
We're getting Myles Garrett. We're getting Max Crosby, Cooper Kupp. We might find, I don't know.
Lions are in on all those guys too. I've been seeing stuff everywhere, so who knows?
Every team thinks they're getting everybody.
Yeah.
I love it.
but last year Connor Swihart and I did push-ups every time that Taylor Swift was shown.
Oh,
I think
that's a good one.
I don't even remember.
I think it was 10 apiece. I think we were over 300. Like,
Wow. Was it really?
Because I remember at the end they just kept putting her on for
Oh,
split
yeah.
seconds, and we were just constantly doing push-ups.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
insane.
It was something ridiculous.
It was
It was
absurd.
not fun. I thought it was going to be like, oh, they'll tone it down, but they were really playing their Swiftie card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, why not?
Do you blame them?
No, right, exactly. Easy
I mean,
marketing.
football fans don't like it, but
Everyone else does,
Right.
yeah,
I guess.
and they get memes from the football fans, so
Very true.
might as well. Well, off topic for the first time. But again, Connor, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Question that I think we should ask about every single one of our guests is why here? Why are you at SAU? It's a little podunk school in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what led you here?
Yeah, it definitely is that, but I'll say off the start, like, I love it here. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend to anyone. I know some people like the big college feel, stuff like that, but I've truly found a home here. The community here is incredible, especially on our team. Like, just a bunch of great dudes, and especially our coaches. Like, they know how to lead men, not just in baseball, but to Christ and all of that stuff, and that's just been amazing. I was between here and one other smaller school, kind of recruiting, and came here, and I think I told my parents like the same day that, like, yeah, I'm coming here. I just kind of knew, and it's been so evident that God led me here throughout the whole process. Just between, I've gotten so much, definitely made my faith my own now. I'm a pastor's kid, so
PK.
growing up, I knew all about it, knew all about Christianity, Jesus, all that stuff. And I'd say I had a relationship in high school, but it was pretty, I don't know if lukewarm's the right term. I just didn't put as much dedication on it.
Kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. But then I got here, and it was just like, I don't know, switch flipped, and you get to college, you're on your own. You have all your own responsibilities, and I really decided to start making it my own, and it's easy to foster that here, which is great. But
it seems like I lead a Bible study with a lot of the track guys, and coming back after breaks, like, everybody's like, well, I mean, sorry to throw them under the bus, but I struggle with it too. I'll admit. I'll be the first to say that. Right after breaks, everybody's like, well, I wasn't in the Word as much. I didn't focus on my time with God as much, which I think that's going to be a real struggle for a lot of people coming out of Spring Arbor and being out of this secluded little community. So I'm saying we need to lean into that more. But
yeah,
I don't know what it is, but this place it makes it easier for some reason.
100%. I think because it's just everyone's so unashamed. Like, it's easier to be unashamed here about your faith. And I've felt it even as I've gone home during breaks. I've been able to be more unashamed about my faith. And I just had a conversation with a friend over text from back home, and he was struggling with some stuff. And I was like, just get in your Bible, man. Like, that's the solution. It seems simple, but
exactly. It seems like it seems stupid to a lot of people. Like, that's not the right way to put it. Like, just think about it from like a secular perspective, though. Like, go read this book.
Yeah.
Like, this book has all the answers, which it does.
It
right?
does.
Like, well, not all the answers, but it can lead you in the the correct direction. It can get your life straight, right? So in that way, it does have all the answers.
And yeah, and it's like described as the living word, and that
New Living Translation.
Get out of here, bro.
I think that idea is weird to people, but that's something I've really noticed, like, as of late. Like, it truly is. Like, you get something different from it every time you read it.
Yeah.
Whether, like, I'm in an Old Testament class right now, I know the creation story, but going back and reading all of it's like, oh, that happened? Oh, I didn't know that. And you just, I don't know, you get new insights from it every time. It's just incredible.
And there's different ways you can read it too. Like, I've read Revelation and I've studied it, right? Like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then I was like, wait, I need to take a step back, right? Like, God is not academic.
Right.
That's something that I struggle with a lot as like a biblical study student. I'm like, wait, this is like so much more than like a degree, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
So sometimes you just got to take a step back. And I think the Gospels and Revelation are a great thing to do this with, and just be like in awe of God and like take things for what they literally are.
Yeah.
Don't just try and break down every single word, which that's good to do as well. I'm not gonna don't quote me saying that I hate biblical exegesis and studying the Bible is bad. But I think a lot of times, especially when you're struggling, you just got to take a step back and let God speak to you. Just like think of some of the stories that we just talk about in regular day. Jesus healing blind people, like that's insane.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
I mean, we just like throw that around
We
in
gloss over it.
conversation.
Yeah.
So,
And I think on that point about academic too, like it's too many people think of Christianity as a religion, and it truly is simply a relationship with Jesus. Like
at a base level, I would.
At the
I would
base
say.
level, that's what it is. Like theology, all of that is awesome, but I think so many people get caught up in debates about that, and they forget the real root is a true relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, it all goes back to that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest hurdles for me to jump. Like I grew up going to private school and different things like that, so I always had this like head knowledge.
Yeah,
and I think Rob Link put it really well in one of the
he's got
chapels.
some good quotes.
Yeah, the like bobblehead Christian. It's just like you have so much knowledge, but you don't do anything with it, and you don't show it. You just know it, which is useless.
Yeah, there's a lack of love. Like love is a truly important thing. Obviously, you got to love God, but then that should parlay into loving people. And I think, like you said, some people have all that head knowledge, and without love, like we're a clanging cymbal, right? Like it's nothing.
So the way we're filming the podcast now, we're doing like Connor and I are doing Connor Swihart and I are doing a Bible study beforehand, and we were going through Philippians 1 today, and that was one of the big things we tackled was love. So it's kind of crazy how God ties things together like that, though.
No doubt.
But yeah, I mean, SAU. We better be getting paid, man. The way that we talk about this school in such high regard.
All the promos.
But, I mean, it seems like every episode we just end up glazing, as we would put it, SAU. I mean, it always ends up there.
I'm 100% gonna get a text from my parents. What's claim?
Don't look it up, folks.
Yep. We'll leave that one.
Yeah, it's a Gen Z word. Gen Z words really do need to be avoided in this podcast room because we're going to end up with them being out of context and parents looking them up.
The amount of Gen Z words that get thrown around the baseball team, I'm good without leaving those out right now. But
I did youth ministry this summer. First week, they were just throwing them all out, right? Skibbity. I'm like, what? Ones I didn't even know. I'm like, okay, we're going to lay all this out. Day one, tell me all the Gen Z brain rot terms. You know, brain rot was one of the terms that we banned. So we started a banned words list, and if any of these words got said, they had to do push-ups. So I was making soldiers in God's army with these children.
It's huge.
Man, people can knock on push-ups, but I think push-ups are the best way to West punishment of all time.
I wouldn't even say punishment, chastisement. That's a good word.
Well, that was like the biggest thing in football. I mean, you false start, push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Week after Thanksgiving break, week before finals, Our team did the Murph challenge, and we did it during like the biggest blizzard of the year so far. Right after a basketball game, we did it 2 different nights, but push-ups is part of the Murph, 200, and I saved like 100 of my push-ups for the end, and it
Not
felt
smart.
like punishment. It's brutal.
I did that one. I've done one Murph in my life, and it was maybe the most miserable I have ever felt. Because I was a big tough guy. I didn't train for it at all, which you don't really need to train for a Murph.
You don't, but I don't know, the pull-ups, I think.
I wasn't working out at the time. And then I thought it was a great idea. 50-pound weight vest.
Oh, my. We did no weight vest. 50-pound weight vest is crazy.
It was one of the toughest things I've ever done, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'll probably do it again.
You feel accomplished for sure.
I don't know if that's what I was feeling. I don't think I did anything the rest of the day. So accomplished is a big word there. But yeah, I mean that led into one of my questions that you were going to ask, that I wanted to ask you, like the mental toughness in your sport. I mean, how does all that arrange with your spirituality and just staying physically fit as well? Because I think there's it's kind of like a Venn diagram at times, and you got to find the bullseye.
No doubt. And like this is something I could talk about for a long time, so I'll try to keep it short. But yeah, especially in baseball, the mental side is somewhat, like, in my opinion, so much more important than any other sport because there's so much more downtime. Even between pitches. Like, you have 30 seconds to a minute between pitches. Well, maybe not a minute between pitches, but
Not with pitch clock.
You're not with pitch clock. But yeah, you have a long time. And like someone like me, I've always been a thinker, like, and a lot of times I overthink, and that's been my biggest issue in baseball. Because you can overthink. And a huge thing that helped me last year, I saw this Instagram reel talking about, it was a guy from East Carolina, and his coach was getting interviewed, like, how is he so calm? How is he able to, like, I think he just hit a walk-off or something. And he's like, he has such a strong faith in God, and he knows that God already knows what's going to happen, and he just takes comfort in that and goes out and performs. And I was like, wow, like, that should be the mindset. So, like, every game I have this routine now. I go out center field, whether I'm in the lineup or not, and I pray, and I pray, help me to have a holy confidence and a play with joy. Those are the 2 things that I pray for. Just because, like, I can get in my own head so bad, but I know that if I just trust God and don't let, all the worldly things, all the, other team chirp in, if I made a mistake, any of that, like, and that just helps me to clear my head, and especially the joy part, because you can get so caught up in everything else. But if you just play with joy, like, the game's so much more fun. That's what it is. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
It's a kid's game.
That's what I try to do, and I hope that the way I play is an example for others. I also pray that, because that's the whole point of this. That's the reason why me and my fiance actually just talked about, like, spiritual gifts. We're going through Corinthians right now, and that's one of the things, like, I think people get caught up in spiritual gifts. I think spiritual gifts are like anything God gives us. We should be parlaying back to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether that's being able to play a sport, whether that's whatever it may be. And that's how I try to look at baseball. So whether I'm playing or not, I try to use that to give the glory back to him however I can. But
I really like that prayer. What was it? Holy confidence?
Holy confidence and joy.
And joy. I mean, a lot of people, you go out there, dear God, I want to win, please, thank you. And then,
right.
So, like, that's just such a humbling thing, because then like, ultimately the result doesn't matter as long as you play for God and play for his kingdom. Like, the results are in his hands.
Yeah, exactly. And he ultimately, he doesn't care about the result. He cares about, like, my heart when I play.
Right.
And that's what I try to focus on. I'm not great at it at times, and I definitely lose focus, but I don't know. I feel like that's something I've gotten better at and try to. And, like, I'm in a position right now where I never know if my name's going to be in the lineup. It's kind of a maybe this day, maybe not, but I try to take that into account, and if I'm not playing, be a sacrificial leader and be the best teammate I can be. And yeah.
Sacrificial leader. What exactly does that mean?
To me, and we've talked about this a lot as a team, like, it's basically leading like Jesus led, you know. He didn't come down to be this great king, this great ruler. Like, he sacrificed for his disciples, for people, was always willing to help people out, and that's what I try to do. Whether that's encouraging my teammates, I try to stay positive as much as I can, helping guys after they make an error, teaching them something. Since, you know, I'm a sophomore, but I know the program, so I really try to take some of the freshmen under my wing and help them out. And it's great on this team because everyone, like, for the most part, responds to it and they understand. And I think we got quite a few guys who are great at the sacrificial leader aspect. And I think that's going to make for a great year, because that's truly how teams succeed, is when you care more about your brother on the other side than you do yourself. And I hope that's what we can do this year. I think we'll have success.
Absolutely. And that success might not look like, how do I put that? It might not look like wins and losses.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, that success might be growing your brothers.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt. I agree with that. I think it also can lead to successes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wins and losses, just because of the fact that you're willing to do anything, and that just helps you play harder for each other. Like, I'm the biggest Michigan fan ever, but you look at Ohio State and Notre Dame, national championship. There was a really cool interview on ESPN about it, actually, right after the game, and they talked about how their relationships with each other. Well, first, their relationship with God helped strengthen the relationships with each other, and that just helped them, you know, play for each other throughout the season. And, you know, they both were in the national championship. So I think that just spoke a lot to me, and I've tried to, you know, be an example of that. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good. And I mean, what led you to baseball when you were younger? I mean, I know this is completely switching directions, but I mean, why the slow sport? I mean, baseball is my favorite sport, so I can pick on it. But
yeah, I don't know. So it's funny. My dad wasn't a baseball player. He played basketball in high school, but we make fun of him because he was a bench warmer, and the crowd would literally chant, "Put JD in," to go into the game. So, I didn't get it from him. My mom. Funny story about my mom, actually. She was a really good basketball player and was going to come here and play, and then ended up meeting my dad and got married and did not end up playing here. But so she wasn't baseball, but my grandpa's always loved it. Huge Tigers fan, loves baseball. And so I think he was probably part of it, but I've always just enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the strategy. I'm big into that, stats, numbers, like
Moneyball.
What was that?
Moneyball.
Oh yeah, love that movie. But I remember when I was younger, I'd, you know, make lineups of the Tigers of my travel team. Like, I don't know, I've just always enjoyed all the intricacies and little parts of the game. So
all right, I might have to show my little nerdiness now. My dad used to have all the baseball cards, like the old baseball cards, and I always used to try and make the best lineup ever with his baseball cards. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, same way. MLB The Show, franchise mode, like I'd grind that, especially over COVID, trying to make the best teams, all that stuff.
Turn force trades on.
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
Crazy. What do you mean? Mike Trout, Bryce Harper on the same team?
Yeah, for a 40 overall minor leaguer.
Yeah.
But
before that was a thing, like you could just turn force trades on. One of my buddies actually used to take control of every team and then just trade everybody to the Packers. The Packers were just like the squad.
That's funny.
Like 4th-string quarterback was like Tom Brady.
Winning like 80-0.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. I had the old NCAA football game, and we would turn all the sliders up, so we'd be kicking like 100-yard field goals. It'd be like 4th and 20 on the one. Yep, we'll kick a field goal.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, this has been a D.
Yes.
It's been a great podcast. We're wrapping up. I mean, if you had one message you had to share to the world of viewers that we had, what would it be?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here.
Sorry.
No, you're good. One message. I would just say, like we talked about earlier, like getting in the Word is so important, and I've really like understood that since I've been here. especially in the morning. Like, I know it's not for everyone to do in the morning, but I find when I wake up, you know, semi-early, depending on my class schedule, and get in the Word and take notes, like, it just changes the outlook of my day. Like, it really is just, it's such a huge difference maker. And I hope everyone can experience it because, like, back to the joy thing, like, I just notice a different joy when I'm in His Word. And, like, I don't know if you guys have been to that fire church that's at our coach's house, but before break, we talked about the importance of doing that and having God, like our Creator, be our first interaction of the day as opposed to other people. Like, when you do that, it just sets you up to have better interactions with all the relationships you have in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I would just say that, and really, really diving into Him, whatever's going on in your life, He truly is home. And it's just, since I've been here and really made my relationship with Him my own, it's like been such a huge difference maker for my life.
Well, thank you for coming on again.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks, for listening. This has been Yeah, He Did, Season 3, Episode 2.